Take your phone calls to 1-620-288-6546. The podcast will be at the iTunes store tomorrow. It's free. You can listen to it on Stitcher as well. Just connect your smartphone to your car. You can listen to it in your car. And, of course, everything will be on our YouTube channel. Just search for the Autoline Network. We're going to get going in just a minute.
What's the gal's name in your it's a virtual shop. You know where you do the
Yeah.
You got the Oculus Rift helmet.
Yep.
What's that gal's name?
Well, there's a couple of them. I'm trying to think of which one you might be.
Who runs the program? It's pretty gal. Tall, thin.
Okay, we have a tease, right, John?
We do.
Okay, stand by.
So you think about it later. We got to
I'm thinking.
get to this.
Yeah.
Just wants to remember the pretty girl. That's all.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, should remember that.
Ready,
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, and 1. Mr. Mustang pays a visit. Honda punishes its executives for recalls, and plastic windows want to play their part in lightweighting.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, your journey, our passion, and by Hyundai. See what makes Elantra so nice. Check out its style, interior space, fuel economy, and popular features now.
Want to thank all of you who are joining us for Autoline After Hours, and I got to thank my two journalist compadres who are here with us today. Chris Pockert from Autoblog.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
And Henry Payne from the Detroit News.
Good to be with you, John.
Good having the both of you here. And of course, we got you here to help me grill our special guest, Dave Pericak, Chief Engineer for the Ford Mustang. And Dave, great having you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John.
We had you back here a couple of years ago when we were at the old studio, and you had done some magic on the Mustang at that point.
Yeah,
but
a little bit of Mustang magic.
now you got a whole new one here in the studio with us. So
Not bad.
this has got to be a dream come true for you, right? After working on Mustang for so long. And, you know, no insult to the last generation, but I've said that was the best collection of Band-Aids this industry has ever seen. It's got to feel great to have a clean sheet car underneath you now.
It does. I mean, you know, anytime you get the opportunity to do a car and we didn't start with an entirely clean sheet of paper. We can talk about that, but it ended up being a clean sheet of paper. And so it doesn't happen too many times in your career.
Tell that story about how you guys changed that, because that's a good one.
Yeah, so when we started out, all new Mustang, 50th anniversary, you're going to do it right. But there were a few things that we didn't want to modify, you know, for investment purposes and other reasons, right? And so front suspension and a few of the body components we were going to try to carry over. But as we got into development and as we really started working on the car, it became very apparent to us real fast that if we were going to do it and do it right, we had to just wipe the slate clean. And to do that, we had to convince the senior leadership at Ford.
Cough up some money.
Cough up some money. But you know what? We were committed to doing this car right. In the end, you guys drove it, I think, you know, and you can speak for it, but it really is just something, it's just fantastic, and it's worthy of carrying the 50th anniversary badge.
And I got to believe things like the Camaro and the Challenger and all that help you convince management that, look, you know, we got some stiff competition here.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, obviously we know where our competition is and where they're going. We believe we know where they're going, but we also spent a lot of time with this car using a bit more aspirational vehicles to do the development for the
like what?
For the chassis,
like
Porsche 911, BMW M3, GTR. I mean, we used a lot of different products to every time we went on a development drive to really we didn't want to be a Porsche 911. But understanding how they deal with certain situations, understand how they tune their car and what is capable, we were able to make sure that we made this a Mustang, but the best performing Mustang that we've ever done.
Wow.
Well, and even in the last generation model, toward the end with the Boss 302, you were starting to garner some of those comparisons, the budget M3, that sort of thing. And that was a really well-sorted car. And to John's point, I mean, those were, you know, some amazing Band-Aids, if that's what they were. But the ride quality of this is unbelievable. The, you know, mid-corner performance, the balance is just right. You've got to be tremendously proud of that, and that must have been a top priority for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you, you know, somebody asked me, what was your biggest concern during the whole development? And a lot of people think it was, you know, the aesthetics of the vehicle, and that really wasn't my concern. We know what a Mustang is and what it needs to be, and while it was fun and challenging.
What an engineer. We didn't care about the aesthetics.
No, I didn't say that. I said we were confident in getting it right. But putting the IRS in the car and doing it right, and doing it, you know, it was way that it's world class, right, was really something that we had to just hit because we were going to be judged. We went from the solid rear axle, right, doing it better than anybody thought we could do it, and now we switched over. And so that's where that clean sheet of paper came in. I mean, once we put the independent rear in, we found out real fast that front suspension wasn't going to keep up. So, you know, we put an all-new subframe up front, double ball joint front suspension, and we redesigned the whole thing because it just wasn't in sync, and it wasn't going to, you know, we weren't going to be able to get everything out of the car. So very proud of where we ended up. But took a lot of work.
Well, and I think that's a key point too. Is that, you know, when you change a rear end like that, independent rear, in a car that's this heavy, all of a sudden you got to address other issues in the car. And I think that front suspension is key. I mean, I generally don't like the muscle car segment in handling because these cars are so big and they're so heavy. And when I heard that Mustang was benchmarking against an M3, which is a car I love, and you can really throw around on the road, I was skeptical. But I mean, I think that's a great challenge because this car is different. I mean, it's not an M3, but it's clearly aspiring to be an M3. This car handles differently than muscle cars have in the past. And when I was doing a test drive, and we were out in California doing the test drive, I chased a Porsche 911 up through the hills of Route 2 north of Los Angeles, and I was able to stay with him.
Yeah,
yeah,
fantastic.
I mean, you could really have fun with a car, whereas in the past, these are nervous cars when you get up on the limit, and this car was really nicely planted.
Well, I think that's one of the things that is really fantastic about this car is there's no nervousness whatsoever. It makes anyone feel like a hero driving it, and the car's going to find your capabilities before you're going to find it.
Two things that really struck me with this car is the grip.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys did. I don't know if it's the tires or what, but the grip is amazing.
Yeah.
Now, you are offering summer tires on it too, so.
We do. Yeah, we have both all season and summer. Depends on what package you get and what we're talking about.
And for our audience outside of the United States, that's not very common here. Usually you get all season radials and that's that.
Yeah. So definitely the tires are really good tires, and the Pirelli P Zeros are 19-inch. Fantastic. But it's not just the tires. I mean, the tires are a huge part of the grip, obviously, but the way you set the whole suspension up really gives you that grip and allows you to really go into the corners. And you guys were in the mountains, and I'm sure you pushed it to its limit. And
Did we? Oh, maybe we did. Yes. I hope none of the police are listening.
Yeah, but no, we sorted the car quite well, I think, and very well balanced. And
The balance is the other thing. This is a very neutral car.
It is.
And yet, you know, it's a classic pony car, long hood, front engined. Was the IRS the key to getting this neutrality in it, or what?
It really was. Definitely the IRS was key in doing that, and so was, we did a lot of getting some weight off the front end as well, so we improved our weight balance in this vehicle versus the outgoing, so obviously that helps as well. But yeah, the suspension really transformed this car. I mean...
Well, and I hate to say it, but you put the 4 in, you put the Turbo 4 in the front. And it's a lighter front. You take 150 pounds out of the boat anchor, the V8 in the front, and it handles even better.
It does.
With a 4, which I think Europeans, I know you guys are really pushing this on the European market. I think the Europeans are going to like that. As a good American boy, I got to have my V8 up there in a muscle car. I mean, the EcoBoost doesn't do it for me in terms of audio. I got to have that V8 bellowing away up there. But the EcoBoost is another element of that handling that helps make this car more neutral.
Well, and the stiffer structure as well. I had a chance to drive the EcoBoost back-to-back with a V8. We had our Car of the Year testing recently in Hell, Michigan. And the bandwidth between the two cars is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
More than in many years past. I mean, the 2.3 really has some balls to it.
Yep.
But the fact that, you've got this balance and you've got the soundtrack that goes with it, it's a little bit different.
Yes. Well, and I hope people understand the EcoBoost, right? 2.3 liter, putting out the type of horsepower and torque that we are, right?
And what's the torque number on
it? It's 310.
310.
Yeah. And it's absolutely amazing. And that EcoBoost it's kind of a new generation of EcoBoost, specifically designed to be in this car. I mean, we've got a ton of upgrades in that motor that are not in typical EcoBoost because we knew that if we're going to put it in this machine, it had to be.
Like, what's specific to this that's?
Forged crank. It's got a higher flow injection system. It's got a 3-port integrated exhaust. It's got twin scroll turbo. I mean, I go on and on about all the upgrades on the internals of the engine that actually make this thing perform like no other EcoBoost. And EcoBoost is a fantastic engine to start with, and then you do what we did with this one. It's really amazing. And I think we were shocking anybody who's driven the EcoBoost has said, why would you want more? Well, I'm with you. I like the V8, right? But think about it. The horsepower of this EcoBoost is almost equal to the horsepower of the outgoing V8 before we brought the 5-liter back.
Well, and again, speaking of baselining with Europeans, I believe that this turbo has more horsepower than the 2 liters in the BMW and the Audi, right? I think those are around 290, 295.
I believe so.
And this thing's over 300, 320 horse?
315.
315. So it's, you know, it's better than the Europeans. All these Turbo 4s are outstanding, great low-end torque. But I think that's, again, as you look to the European market where these poor people suffer under $8 a gallon gas,
Yep.
You not only come in with fuel efficiency, but you also come in with higher horsepower numbers than they're used to in their luxury 3 Series and Audis.
Yep. No, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, the technology allows us to do so much more now than we could ever do before, right?
Well, you know, the old turbo engines back in the day were like on-off switches. You know, there was massive amounts of lag, and when they came on like sledgehammers.
Right.
Yep.
And I can't believe the EcoBoost with you guys and the others, the drivability is just phenomenal.
Right.
I mean, they react so well, and it's not just in the Mustang. I mean, in a lot of different vehicles. I'm just blown away by how good turbo engines are these days.
Yeah. I just want to clarify. I think I said that it's 310 horse, 315 foot-pounds of torque. I just want to make sure. I think we were bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, it's got more torque than horsepower.
Yeah.
Right.
But still, 310 horse. The outgoing V8 was 315. Right? Before we did the 5-liter.
Yeah, no, that's
so
impressive.
yeah, but the way that we control the engines now, the way that we have, you know, I mean, the turbo lag. That's going with the twin scroll turbo reduces that lag as well. So you don't really feel that lag in the vehicle, where in a standard turbo you do get a bit of lag, right? Very important in this car that you don't get that lag. So
what I thought with the 2.3 as well, the EcoBoost, was that at lower speeds, you know, I could sort of tell, yeah, that's definitely a 4. But once you get around, you know, 3,000 to 4,000 RPM, wow.
Oh yeah,
she opens up.
Just starts singing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it likes to run at the higher RPM. There's no doubt about it. Which feels great when you're out running the canyons, right?
Well, Dave, there's this huge long run up to this car, and when we're all getting a chance to test it now, and the car's getting out on the roads. But the looks of the car were also, there's a lot of trepidation in the Mustang community that this was a glorified Ford Fusion. I really like it. I mean, I think
the complaint was it was going to look too Euro, based on some of the concept teases that you guys had done.
And those were coming out for over a year before we even revealed the car.
Right.
No, you know, guys, I think all that was going on, and while it was going on, you know, we just had to keep our focus, right? Because we knew that we were developing not a European Mustang, and a lot of people need to understand, we're taking this all over the world, but we developed a Mustang and decided to take it global. We didn't design a global Mustang. Right, this is purely Mustang. It's unmistakably Mustang, but it is futuristic, right? What you don't want to do is create the same car that you have today. You want something that is different. You want something that's going to set you up for the next 50 years. We're celebrating 50. We want to celebrate 50 more.
Yeah.
But I think what was really successful, we don't do a whole lot of research when we go and do the the aesthetics of the car. We know, like I said, we know what our customers want. We know them better than anybody. But we do a sort of a confirmation research once we're done. And, you know, with no badging or anything, we let people come in and we immediately just said, what is it? And without hesitation, it was, well, that's a Mustang. That's a Mustang, right?
Well, and I was really struck at the Dream Cruise this year. You did a special event for owners.
We did.
Out at your Dearborn test facility. And the 2 comments I heard, one was how much they love line lock. And I wish you could do a line lock demo for us here in the studio.
I offered to do it. I wanted to do right here.
So just for those who are
Folks out there
listening,
couldn't see us.
Yeah,
if you did.
well, yeah, but
for those who haven't heard Line Lock, explain what it is.
okay, so Line Lock is an OEM first, and we're happy that we're the first ones to bring it to you. But it really is it's a feature that our customers can use through the controls of their steering wheel to lock the front brakes and leave the rear brakes free, so that you can, I'm supposed to say, warm up your tires as you get ready to run down the track. But it's a great feature. You know, we know our customers. We know that they love to go to the drag strips. We know that they love, you know, to do burnouts. And so, you know, we're giving them a feature that is useful when you do go to the drag strip, and they'll use it any way they want. But it is an OEM first, and it is very cool. If you haven't tried it, I think you guys might have tried it, maybe. Yeah. Even though I said don't, I think you might have.
Henry gave it the good housekeeping seal of approval.
It's going to change the Dream Cruise forever. I mean, you can just sit there. Don't have to worry about the bicycle cops anymore. You just sit there to light for 15 seconds and melt your tires and never have to move. Perfect burnout.
But you know, that's what's great, right? You're able to do it all. You're able to do it all.
There we go. Burnout.
That's me.
Got a video on it.
That is me. Yeah. Look at that.
This is what I shot for the Detroit News. Yeah.
Oh, so you shot it, Henry. Look at that. That is great. And look, the crowd goes crazy.
The crowd goes nuts. Yeah, they loved it. No, you know, who doesn't love a burnout, right? But that's what's cool, right? You can do a car like this, set it up for the next, you know, 50 years, do a car that handles like no muscle cars ever handled before, and yet still retain what makes these cars special and fun. Features like Line Lock or like track apps or some of the other things that we brought to our customers. So it's fun.
So with all this discussion about benchmarking cars that are a couple of classes above, you've got a fully modern 4-cylinder in this car now.
Yep.
You've got a much nicer interior, refinements way up across the board.
Yep.
Are you thinking that you're going to attract different customers in addition to the traditional Mustang enthusiast and muscle car buyer?
Yeah, absolutely, and that was the goal when we set out with this, right? We knew that we had to obviously bring a vehicle to life that our current loyalists were going to support and love. But we want a new customer. We want to set ourselves up for the next 50 years. And so we need to go after a younger and a different customer than what we currently have in Mustang. And we believe that engine's going to allow us to do that. We believe that the car, the way it's set up and the way that the refinement of it and the maturity of it is going to do that as well. And then we're bringing it global too. So we know that that'll be received very well overseas, all of those upgrades that you talked about earlier.
When's it go on sale?
Well, the Fastback is already in showrooms.
Okay.
They're already shipping out of the assembly plant and they're in showrooms.
And for our international audience, for example, when does it show up in Europe? Do you know?
It's a phased process. So next year is when they start showing up in Europe and throughout the year, especially as we bring the right-hand drive version. Because we are going to do right-hand drive, built right out of Flat Rock, Michigan, right on the same assembly line.
We've got some very faithful Australian listeners for the show, too.
Well, they're going to get a right-hand drive version. But, you know, that's the first time we've ever done right out of the factory, a right-hand drive Mustang. But it just goes to show you the dedication that we have in doing this right. We're going to be sending it to every continent on the globe except for Antarctica, and I got the team working on that. We're going to over 140 countries. So we really are bringing Mustang global.
Look, I think that's one of the smartest moves the Ford Motor Company has ever made. Seriously, you know, for everything that the company's done and its turnaround, the One Ford, yada, 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 taking the Mustang global, I think, is such a great move.
And John, you know, I think what's important is the One Ford really allows us to do that because the world has been ready for the Mustang before we even were. I mean, more than half the Mustang clubs are outside of the U.S. and they've been bringing them in through the gray market, you know, for a long time. But our One Ford with our, you know, our One PD and our product development and our One marketing and our One manufacturing, it really is allowing us to do this and do it in the right way. So, yeah, we're excited.
What's and what do you hear differently from international markets when you do customer surveys over there? I mean, it is an iconic car. I mean, this is it's not just iconic Ford; it's iconic America.
It is.
So, do you hear folks in Europe, for example, who want the V8, or do you think that there'll be a big take, like an 80-20 take, for the turbo, for the EcoBoost?
We do think that the EcoBoost is going to be a bigger take in Europe than the V8. But as far as the customer goes, what we found, it was very interesting. What we like here in America about the Mustang is exactly what they like about the Mustang. And that was key to understand that early because, again, they want a piece of Americana. And that's what we're bringing them, right? We didn't design a global car with everybody's input and then put a Mustang badge on it, right? They want the Mustang and what Mustang stands for. And the research really told us that they want exactly what we want. So we do think that the take rate on the EcoBoost will be higher. But as far as the car itself and what it stands for and what it represents and how it should perform, it's the same thing we want.
And what about here in the States, the take rate? You've got the V6 as the entry-level model. We haven't even broached that subject.
Yeah.
Do you have any projections on those?
We don't typically try to quote, those numbers. We'll see how it sorts out. It's probably going to be fairly equal, between the V8 and the V6 and the i4. Probably the V6 and i4 might even overtake the V8 a little bit. But the V6 was brought in. So when we started this project, we only had 2 engines. We had the EcoBoost and the V8. We brought the V6 back into the mix to keep the price point low and to really have, the car has always been affordable to all, right? And we wanted to make sure that we didn't lose that part of the recipe. And so we, a little bit late in the process, we said, hey, get the V6 back in here, right? It's going to be our way to really give the entry level offering to our customers, and we know that they're going to want that. And you know, it's been a great engine for us. So.
But you know, the other thing I think is really smart about that is that they're you know, Mustang, the Mustang owners go way back, and there's still a sour taste in the mouth about the Mustang too.
Yeah.
And the first 4-cylinder Mustang, and that there's a history and there's a buzz that was not a real Mustang. And so I think it was really smart with this car to position the 4-cylinder here as a performance engine. So the V6 is the base, not the 4.
That's right.
So you don't get those cracks about, oh, it's like the Mustang 2, it's another 4. I mean, in this case, it's the middle engine. It's a step up. It's an upgrade. It's a performance engine, and I think that'll help people accept the 4-banger in this in a way it was never accepted in the Mustang 2.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because that was part of our thought process, right? And I think that when people look at the pure numbers and then they go out and they drive it, I think it's just going to reinforce what you just said, right? That is a performance engine. We offer a performance pack with the EcoBoost, and when you put all that together, it's a heck of a package. It really is. And you know, with the fuel economy that it gets as well. I mean, 33 miles per gallon. Come on. I mean, who thought we were going to be putting out 310 horses at 33 miles per gallon?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think, you know, the F-150, I know you guys are surprised at the take rate on the V6.
Yeah, it's been fantastic
right?
for us.
And
Absolutely.
that came in, and I bet people it'll be a surprise how many people take the turbo here, because this is a performance engine.
Once they drive it, you know, people might go, well, what do you mean a 4-cylinder in a Mustang? And, you know, back to your Mustang 2 days, just drive it. You'll be convinced.
Just drive it.
Yeah. So a lot of companies, you know, do a lot of track development, Nürburgring, you know, the Nordschleife seems to be a big thing. Where did you guys go?
We go all over the country. I mean, we have many different tracks that we test at for many different reasons. I mean, all of the tracks are different, and you get to, you know, really put it through its paces. So we don't, I'm not going to tell you exactly what tracks, but, and there's a reason why. But no, we do. We go across all of the United States.
What's the reason?
Why I won't tell you?
Why you won't tell us, yeah.
Because when we do our development testing, people
you don't want spies
Exactly.
out there. Yeah. Can understand that. Hey, look, the music means we're going to take a quick break here, but we got a ton of questions from the audience. We'll get back to that in a minute.
Sounds good.
There's only one car company in America that's never made a single car. And while you won't find Firestone cars on any showroom floor, they're out there, running better, faster, stronger, longer. No, we don't build cars. But make no mistake, Firestone is a car company. So whatever you drive a Firestone.
Amazed at the younger generation.
Yeah. Hey, we're back.
We're back.
Yeah, I want to thank Firestone. In fact, I think Firestone's going to love your lane lock. Or line lock option. They're going to hope everybody in the world puts line lock on their cars. All the tire companies will.
A lot of people ask me, does line lock void the warranty? And I say, line lock does not void the warranty, but we're not going to pay for your tires or the divorce. Neither one of those are covered by the Ford Motor Company.
Read the fine print.
Okay, we got a whole bunch of questions here, so let's get into it. Dan the Man says, hey, why didn't the Mustang get a higher output version of the 2.7 liter V6 that's going in the F-150?
We looked at a variety of different engines, including the 2.7. At the end of the day, we felt that the 2.3, with all the upgrades that we were making to it, was going to be the right balance between the performance that we were trying to get out of it, the fuel that we were trying to get out of it, right? There's a lot of factors. So it just was a matter of, this was the right balance of all the things we were trying to manage.
Dr. Botox wants to know, 1 year from now, what's going to be the most popular aftermarket item for the Mustang? And is there any low-hanging fruit for those of us who like to modify their wheels?
I don't know what the
Well, you guys are going to SEMA, right?
We are going to SEMA. Yes, we are. I don't know exactly what the #1 aftermarket is going to be. We do know that it's the most customized car in the world, and the aftermarkets are already out there. We worked with a lot of the aftermarkets early with this car. Gave them, we did some measurement sessions early, and we gave them some data early so that they could get going. So, hey, go and see what they got going on.
It's going to be tires because of the line lock.
Right. VRM Chris says, I like the fact Ford was willing to spend the money on the chassis to be truly world class. Good on Ford. Credit where credit is due. So that's not even a question. Just
Thank you.
And Henry, here's one for you. This comes in from Armand, who says, I know you're a tall guy. How'd you fit in the new Mustang?
I'm great in the front seat.
Nobody's good in the back seat.
Yeah, the back seat's for small children only.
Yeah, but you didn't have any. You're how tall?
I'm 6'5". So yeah, no, the front seat is great. The bolstering's good. The comfort is good. And I must say that that's true across the board in cars these days. The only car I have difficulty fitting into is a Mazda Miata. The Ford, yeah, the Ford was comfy.
Yeah. Hey, we've got several phone calls here. Ben, let's bring in one of those.
Hi, this is Andy, anonymous, calling from Northeast Ohio. I'm a gearhead, and I got a whole bunch of gearhead buddies, and a couple of them are high-ups in the Ford Motor Company. And I was drinking with them a couple of weeks ago, and after a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of drinks, and a whole bunch of lap dances, they kind of opened up. And this is for Mr. Pericak. Dave, they're suggesting, first of all, lean back, realize that your feet are in water and your plug's turned into, your chair is plugged into 220 volts. They're suggesting there's a 5.2 liter flat cranked 180 degree V8 engine that's going to be put in the Mustang, and it's going to be designated the GT350. Huh, I love our gearhead buddies. Embargo, my ass. This is what he said. I got reason to believe that's the fact. Later.
Hey, thanks for the call. So you're going to comment? 5.2 flat crank?
I don't comment on future product plans. I think that it's interesting that everyone has their idea of what we should do.
How about all-wheel drive?
I will comment on that. That's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Not in the near future.
Not appropriate for this car? Or, okay.
No, it's just something that's not in our plans right now. I don't think that that it fits what we're trying to do with the vehicle, and yeah, so it's not in our plans.
Okay, Rum and Coke says, not an engineering question, just wondering what kind of sales numbers you guys are expecting outside of North America.
Again, won't quote the actual numbers, but we're very confident that we're going to do quite well outside of the U.S. And we have the capacity at the plant to build as many as they want to buy, so we'll see what happens. Jay
Cujo's got the question I've been wanting to ask you.
What's that?
Have you guys been put on notice with the Dodge Hellcat Challenger? And with FE coming, I'm not sure what he means by FE coming. Will Ford take a shot at them? Anyway, what about the Hellcat? 707 horses.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, look, I think this is a great time to be a part of the automotive industry. We had 662 horses not that long ago. Now they got 700. Stay tuned.
Well, and that is what's driving this. I mean, you're benchmarking against M3's Porsches. You're also benchmarking against Challenger Camaro.
Absolutely.
And the Camaro, in my opinion, to this point, was the best handling of the three great American muscle cars. You guys have now raised the bar. It's going to force the other two to respond too. It's great for the consumer. Yeah, certain Camaros. You're right.
The consumer does win.
Jonathan wants to know, what's the natural competitor in Europe for the car?
There's not an actual natural competitor for this car. It's a niche car. It's kind of in Europe. It's a unique offering. So it's going to be interesting to see what naturally happens over there as far as how that goes. But we're sort of positioning it as a niche vehicle over there. So.
What about in China? I mean, obviously that's a growth market for the entire industry, and for Ford, you're throwing a lot of money at that country, and this is sort of a different type of vehicle. Do you think it'll be embraced there?
We do, absolutely, and we are going to China. When we revealed it, we did a global reveal. We did part of our reveal in China, and the reception there was fantastic.
That's way cool to hear. That's great.
Fantastic.
Hey, we got another phone call. Let's squeeze that in, too.
Yes, this is Roger from Fairfield, Connecticut, with a question for Dave. Dave, I see the new Mustang has a lot of aluminum in it, including the hood and the front fenders. I currently have a '06 Mustang with all kinds of corrosion problems in the hood, and thousands of other owners seem to have the same problem. What have you guys done to fix that? And tell us specifically what you're doing to give us confidence in the new car. Thank you, and John, great show.
Thanks.
So, that's a great question. I can't speak about '06, but I can tell you that we've had aluminum hood on the car for quite some time now. We have learned quite a bit about corrosion and how to manage it and how to make sure that we don't have customer complaints. I can tell you that the cars of recent have had no issues out in the field. And then, as you know, we're doing an all-aluminum F-150, so Ford has learned a little bit about aluminum.
Ooh, stay tuned on that maybe too, maybe? Okay, Jonathan, no. Right Knight says, how about an EcoBoost 5-liter?
How about it?
Yeah. Let's see, we were just talking about 707 horsepower a little bit ago.
It would be cool, wouldn't it? Not commenting.
Okay, let's see. David R. Pate, he's got a great question. What about the drag racers? You going to offer them a solid rear axle?
No, we're not. What we do know, our customers that go to the drag strip on the weekends and love to run, they're going to be able to run with this car all day long. It's going to be very durable and they're not going to have any issues. If somebody wants to put together a car that's going to be an 8-second car or something like that, they're going to take the rear end out and put a solid rear axle in, and it's going to be a professional drag car anyway. So we don't feel that we've compromised anything for our everyday customer. We know that what they want to do with the car, and the car's going to do it.
JM1NB wants to know, did NHTSA have any issues with you guys putting line lock on this?
No comment, John.
Ooh, good question there. Let's see, we probably got time to squeeze one more in here. I don't see anything quite yet, but I'll ask one then.
Sure.
And, so you really keep track of Camaro and Challenger.
Absolutely.
What do you think Camaro's going to do next?
Well, I believe that they're going to probably downsize their vehicle a bit. They're still quite a bit heavier than this car here, and I'm sure they're going to try to get closer to us in weight. And I'm sure they're going to try to up the game on both their quality of their interior and their handling. So we're watching them. We know what they're doing, and we kind of know what they're doing with their powertrains and everything else. So.
I love hearing what you're saying because you guys, Mustang, Camaro, Challenger program, there's a mutual respect there. A mutual respect, you still want to kick them in the teeth,
right.
But there's a mutual respect there, and I just think it's way cool to see you guys upping the bar on each other.
Yeah.
Who knows where this is going to go?
It's fun for those of us who are car guys, and as you said, the consumer wins.
Yeah. This is the second golden age of the muscle car.
It is. Yeah. Dave Pericak, thanks so much for coming in. Thanks for bringing a Mustang along with you. It's way cool. I love what you guys are doing. I think you're going to see a lot of success with this car.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Cool.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Hey, we're going to take another quick break here, and we'll be back talking about some of the news of the week, so stay tuned.
Have you seen what's been happening with our other shows? Here's this week's auto lineup. Starting with those catchy Buick commercials where we heard from the man running the brand and why he says that is a Buick. Then we also told you about a Tata building boom, and not for its luxury line of cars and SUVs, but rather the plants that make them. And finally, we gave you an inside look at the German auto industry by reviewing the top 10 brands and telling you who sells the most metal in Deutschland. For more details on these stories and others, check out our website or click on our YouTube channel. Hey, and don't forget our latest episode of Autoline This Week with an in-depth look at the battery industry with 3 of its leading experts. All that and more on Autoline.tv.
It's one thing to talk all about these horsepower figures. I still argue what we should be arguing about is power to weight ratio. And I haven't done the numbers on this yet, but this has got to be pretty good from a power to weight ratio standpoint, especially with the 5-liter engine.
No, it's true. And I just got out of the Dodge Charger Hellcat for a test drive there, and it's a fantastic car in a straight line, but you really need to be careful in the corners, in part because of that. It's a 4,700 pound car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of weight transfer. And when you get that weight down under 4,000 pounds, like Mustang does, it's easier to manage. I mean, their suspension dynamics are much better.
Right.
But you also just don't have the the weight transfer the way you do in the Challenger, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and you know, as you point out, the Challenger and the Charger are heavy cars, and you know, from a power to weight ratio standpoint, they're actually quite good.
Yeah.
You know, I want to say off the top of my head, roughly 8.5 pounds per horsepower, and that you're talking supercar category in that regard.
Well, and I think the other thing that's huge for buyers of these cars to understand is that the electronics are so good in them. So if you get the car out of sorts, which is easy to do when you have 600, 700 horsepower under the bonnet, if you got your electronic control systems in place, they'll save you. I mean, the electronic systems are extraordinary, and that's a huge difference from the last golden era of muscle cars, where you really had to be, you know, these things would kill you if you didn't.
It was easy to lose control. That's
right.
For damn sure.
Yeah, now it's hard. I mean, the stability control systems are really good.
People will find a way. I'm quite confident.
Yeah, well, no doubt. They'll turn the systems off.
But that safety net, it's really the great equalizer. It really is.
Hey, let's talk about some of the news going on this week. Chris, there's been so much bad news about these airbag recalls, and Takata especially. What do you view of what's going on?
Well, I mean, obviously it's a full-fledged crisis because it affects so many different cars from so many different years, from so many different manufacturers. They're up to like 7.8 million cars now, and I think that total is still going to grow. And it's been calamitous on a number of different fronts. I mean, I think NHTSA's got a lot of egg on its face for the way that it's handled it. It's put out restatements saying, you know, you really have to get this fixed, which is very unusual. And so just so everybody knows what's happening is there's these Takata airbags, and they've got these inflator canisters inside of them. And they're apparently prone to exploding and not in the proper fashion. They're overpressurized or something. And they're actually spraying some of their components, some of that
shrapnel.
metal. Yeah, effectively shrapnel, right. Some of the metal canister, some plastics are being sprayed out, and it's not necessarily even in an accident scenario. There have been 4 deaths, and there have been 130, 140 injuries related to this, and it's really, really frightening. And NHTSA has put up a website that you can look up your VIN numbers, which I think maybe was born out of the GM crisis, and it's been down, it's been overwhelmed, and they put out
like a denial of service attack.
Yeah, and they put out lists that have the incorrect model years. One of our writers actually went around to the automakers yesterday and said, you know, here's the amended list, is this correct? And most of them were saying, yeah, it's close, but some were saying, you know what, this is part of another recall for non-Takata airbags. This is the wrong model year for this car. So even in their restatement, even in their fixing, there's still problems.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Well, and there's another issue with NHTSA, and I have a problem with government mandates in general, and airbags are mandated to be in cars. But in this case, what is disturbing about this particular problem is that drivers don't have a choice of whether they get hit by somebody or whether they're in an accident. I mean, these airbags are going to go off in their car. I mean, the Cobalt recall that has obsessed us in the news industry of late, it has problems, but if your car stalls, most people can pull it over the side of the road. You know, they can deal with the issue. You can't deal with an issue when an airbag explodes in your face and shrapnel explodes at your head, and I hope NHTSA and the government works with manufacturers and looks at possibilities like giving customers the option to turn their airbags off until such time.
It'll be a cold day in hell,
but
Henry.
you know, that's what that's where the government gets a bad name, is these one-size-fits-all mandates, and this is a case where it's going to be scary for people to get in their cars. Because they could get in that car and who knows what could happen. Yeah. That airbag is going to go off and they could bleed to death before the emergency vehicles get to them.
I had a problem with the airbag mandate back in the early days because, you know, these things fire off at 200 miles an hour. Yeah. Now we've got smart airbags that can say, with a sensor in the seat, I know it's a smaller person, so I don't have to blow off the bag quite as intensely.
Right.
But in the early days, it was a one-size-fit-all airbag. General Motors showed NHTSA video of small children in the front seat with the airbag going off, blowing them out the back window.
And video, they used pigs. They had pigs.
Joan Claybrook, who ran NHTSA, said, oh, you know, this is just a bunch of propaganda. Well, she didn't say that, but she implied, you know, you car companies are just dragging your feet. And in fact, we know that when airbags were first mandated, they were killing people. They were killing them more than they were saving their lives. Killing kids. Killing kids and elderly people and smaller stature people.
Well, and the other piece of that is what ultimately the solution was, safety, seat belts. I mean, the way the manufacturers reacted to NHTSA's obstinance on airbags. I mean, Claybrook was saying you didn't have to wear seat belts, that airbags would save you, which was absurd. And so that is when the Buckle Up campaign really started.
I don't know if she ever said you don't have to wear a seatbelt.
She did.
Did she?
No, I did investigative pieces on this when I was in D.C. Yeah,
incredibly irresponsible.
Oh, incredibly irresponsible. And again, that's government that's a bit removed from the customer. And so that is when the industry really started pushing the seatbelt laws. And today, thankfully, the seatbelt, I mean, the seatbelt's really what's going to save you.
Well, you know, officially airbags have always been referred to as SRF, supplementary restraint system, i.e., you better have your seatbelt on. And in fact, I would say for anybody who's worried about these airbag canisters exploding in their face, take it to your mechanic, have them disconnect the airbag, wear your seatbelt, wait until the new parts are in the pipeline, because this is going to take a long time to get those parts in the pipeline.
Exactly.
When they say, come on back to the dealership, put the new airbag in, then, you know, reconnect everything.
Well, and there's even some confusion about that. We've heard reports that some, especially Toyota dealers, are actually doing that. They're depowering the airbag, and they're, in some cases, literally putting a sign on it, on the seat saying, do not sit here, which is kind of unbelievable when you think about it. But now we've heard...
That's just for the lawyers.
Yeah.
Nobody's,
that's true.
you know, you're going to put a do not sit here on your steering wheel, you know, come on. That's that's a legal CYA move.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of that happening these days, I think, right?
Yeah, right. Well, and that's, I mean, I'd say in some degrees driving the recalls, because the companies want to, these huge recalls that we're seeing right now, because the industry wants to be out in front of it, so they want to be out in front of the lawyers. But that's, again, I think that's what's key here with this particular problem, is that the public's gotten a little numb to recalls right now. There's so many of them. Every manufacturer's at. This Takata thing is the real deal. This is a real problem, and I think Takata is just one of 3 airbag manufacturers in the world, right? I mean, it's going to take a while.
3 big ones.
Yeah, it's going to take a while to get the capacity to get
actually,
these.
It might be 4, but yeah, it's going to take a while to get these parts in the pipeline.
Yeah, get these parts in the pipeline. So people need to be educated about what's in their car, and this is an important moment for NHTSA and the industry.
It's got to scare the hell out of suppliers. I mean, you know, I think it's entirely possible this is going to cripple Takata forever.
Well, and they're under, at least I think we've heard that an investigation is coming from the U.S. government to see if they misled safety investigators about this problem, the scope of this problem. So when that comes, I mean, the stock price has already obviously taken a hit, but yeah, it could get ugly.
And I think this is also going to force some automakers to reconsider their purchasing policies. Honda was heavily committed to Takata. And, you know, I think it's a great thing to give a supplier a bunch of business so that they get scale and you can get better prices and all. But I think this is going to force automakers to go, geez, maybe we better have 3 suppliers per component. Definitely not 1.
Yeah. But, you know, again, just to go back to the history of the airbags, I'm a little...
because we're going to go for another break.
Again, it also should focus some attention on airbags, because you have devices that explode in the car. I mean, and hopefully there'll be another look at airbags and how we can make this, you know, make that work better.
Nice. Not nice.
The new Elantra from Hyundai. Nice.
Autoline offers you one of the most effective ways to get your marketing message in front of the decision makers in the global automotive industry. Contact Stacy Eman today.
We really want to thank our friends at Hyundai for sponsoring this show. There's a lot of work goes into doing this program, and it's great to see that we've got that kind of support, and really appreciate it from them. Another thing that we ran on Autoline Daily this week was a very interesting concept car that Mercedes, BMW, and the Technical University of Munich collaborated on. I can't believe that Mercedes and BMW collaborated on doing a concept vehicle, but they did. All doing lightweighting kind of stuff. And one move was to go with plastic windows, and because, you know, next to the lead in the battery to start your engine, probably the glass has got to be some of the heaviest stuff, if not the next heaviest stuff there. And but I just wondered what your guys' reaction is, because we got a lot of viewer comments on this.
Well, I think it depends on what the durability is. You know, I mean, is there a hazing issue?
It's a polycarbonate, right. I should say. It's not just plastic. I mean, it's very tough glass.
Right, but I mean, it makes sense that you're looking at it. Lightweighting has to come out of pretty much every component, and with glass, I mean, it's 100 pounds per car, 120 pounds per car, and it's the worst kind of mass. It's the mass at the top.
Yeah.
So there's a real opportunity there. I think you can do all sorts of neat things with molding plastics with polycarbonates that you can't do necessarily with glass. So there's a big upside. The question is the durability there?
Yeah, durability and noise, I know, is an issue. I drove years ago a Chrysler minivan that had polycarbonate windows, not the windshield. And I can't remember now, because it was that long ago, if the two front doors were glass. But for sure, the sliding doors, the back glass, and everything like that. And you could feel the difference. Let me tell you, that's taking a lot of weight out. But it also let a lot of noise through.
Well, I mean, that's a really interesting point, John, because all of us who get into cars these days, the first thing you notice is how quiet they are. And a lot of that's that's laminated windows. Right?
Double glazing, yeah.
So there's a lot of technology that's been done with glass lately that's been key to making these cars quieter for the consumer. So now you move into a different technology with plastics. Do you compromise that? Because that's a big deal to consumers right now, is how quiet the cars, particularly with all this electronics coming in, and people listen to more music in their cars. You know, that environment, that sealed environment, you're not going to be able to go back.
You've got to be able to translate that text to speech for your Facebook page.
That's right. Exactly.
With all that ambient noise, it's not good for that.
Yeah.
Right. To your point, the other thing is, I think side windows are probably a bad area for that. For that sort of technology, because in a crash, while they'd be extremely durable, if you ever had to have an emergency worker try to get you out, good luck with that.
I'm sure they've thought of that, and I don't know what the solution is, but that's a great point that you raise. You know, that emergency responders got to be able to smash the glass and haul you out of there if there's a fire or anything.
But even then, I mean, is glass that big a contributor to weight? I mean, I believe BMW and Audi are teamed up on carbon fiber, right? Trying to get the cost of carbon fiber, because that's such a huge part of a vehicle's skin.
I'm glad you said that, because I should hasten to point out that this concept car is electric. So, the faster you can take weight out, you can also reduce the battery pack and take a tremendous amount of cost out, or leave that battery pack in and just get that much more range.
Yeah. But, I mean, Ford's going after, with the F-150, going after the skin, going after the steel skin for a reason. I mean, that's a lot of weight in a car. And, so, it seems to me the carbon fiber development I raced cars, and the difference between fiberglass and carbon fiber is huge. So in production cars, I would think that a lot more investment money would go into that than into glass, but we'll see. I guess this is all comprehensive.
Yeah, I want to say that the hatchback Accord in Europe had a plastic backlight. If you remember the old Pontiac Aztec, it had a lift gate. I know. Sorry to bring that back into your mind there, Chris, but yeah, they had a glass backlight, and then at the very rear of the car, there was like an extra little window. Well, same with the Accord hatch in Europe, and I know that that is a polycarbonate window there. So There is, and I'm sure there's a couple of other applications.
Maybe the Prius or something, that little Perspex.
Yeah. So, you know, it's not the first attempt at this, and but I just found that interesting enough that, you know, when BMW and Mercedes start collaborating on a concept car, and you know, the talk is of plastic windows, it's like, wow, you know, here we go again, because I'm telling you, the plastics industry has been pitching this for 20 years now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So another thing is, I wanted to get your guys' reaction to, for our television program, Autoline this week. We've shot a show, it hasn't aired yet, but we had a guy named Duncan Aldred, British guy, who's now the head of sales for Buick and GMC. And you've probably seen these TV ads that Buick's been running all year long right now, where some older person comes out and looks at the car and goes, "That's not a Buick."
I can't stand them. I can't stand those ads.
But their sales are going great.
Well, certain sales are going great, right? So certain models, new models like the Encore has done very, very well.
Right.
But still something like the Regal, I mean, is that really being...
The Regal's actually doing pretty good right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at
But
numbers
the
lately.
LaCrosse, no. But the LaCrosse is pretty old right now, too. But no, if you look at their lineup, they're growing faster than the overall market.
Yeah.
They have not introduced a new model this year at all. And it's those stupid ads that you don't like, Henry.
Yeah, man. Well, it didn't focus group me. 'Cause I mean, you know, to me, it's sort of a product 101 too. You don't want to introduce your customers' product into your ad. I mean, you want to talk about your product, not about the customer. So, just the basic premise, I find disturbing. I'm glad it's working for Buick. I mean,
That's an interesting point, but they're not calling out specific competitors. They're not saying, oh, that looks like, you know, a Honda or something like that. They're just having scenarios.
But they're implying that, that they have been subpar,
and they're saying the woods somewhere.
Yeah, with the
there's
with the Detroit News, we never imply that we're inferior to anybody, you know, and so there's that premise in the ad that you have to get over. I mean, no doubt the Buick products are much better and they've gotten better. I would just like to see Buick sell it on its own terms. I mean, whether it's performance or whether it's quiet or whatever it is, but it just seems to me you start in the hole when you have to acknowledge that you've been putting out subpar products.
Well, there's a variation on it too. There's a young woman on her phone, and she's talking with somebody, and they're, well, oh, I'm right out in front in the Buick, and she goes out and says, I don't see it. I'm right in the Buick, and then she goes, oh, that's a Buick.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, I find it a very interesting ad campaign in the sense that young people are sort of discovering Buick, and old people who are saying that's not a Buick are also rediscovering, but this is the new Buick. And I think it works on the traditional buyer and on the new buyer, too.
Reminds me of the old Kellogg's Cornflake ad that was taste them again for the first time. And it's that sort of thing. Like, you may have forgotten about us, but we're still here. We're still providing a quality product, and you should look at us, and maybe you haven't had us in a long time.
What's so amazing is, you know, Buick, as GM did, in fact, as Detroit did for a lot of the 80s and 90s, put out such crummy products that they soured a whole generation to buying their cars. Millennials never went through that. They never experienced it. So to them, you know, Buick is a name that they know, but don't know the vehicles either. So it's this whole campaign has worked on that level, too, of getting a new generation of millennials to go, hey, let's look at the Buicks, because they don't have any bad experience with them.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. The Buick Enclave, which I love, I think that's a wonderful SUV. And I just did a comparo of, because the Enclave, the SUVs have totally replaced the station wagon, right? I have a buddy of mine who's got a 95 Buick Roadmaster. And I did a comparo that was the big car of the 90s, and the Enclave is the big Buick of the 21st century, and it is dramatic. I mean, that's just 20 years, and to put those two vehicles side by side, it's extraordinary. Not just in how much Buick has changed, but in how much this industry has changed. The wood on the Roadmaster is all on the outside. The wood on the Enclave is all on the inside. surrounding the center console, and because there's so much packed into a center console. Buick Roadmaster, which was the high-end station wagon of the day, had an AM/FM radio. And today, you get in that Enclave, and that center console is packed.
Yeah, and it probably only had one speaker at that, the old one.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
It's amazing to me how SUVs have really caught on, or crossovers, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's this almost monobox design, and it's the world over. I mean, you know, you can go to Europe, you can go to China, Latin America, I don't care where you're talking about. The SUV shape has really taken over.
Well, and you know, what's happening too is the SUV line now is mimicking the sedan line. So the SUV lines are becoming full line. They're not just big trucks anymore. I mean, they're going to, you know, speak of the Buick.
Every niche. Yeah.
What's the little Buick? The lovely
The Encore. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the little Encore.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's going up, and I know the mid-size guys, the mid-size sedan guys, that's been meat and potatoes, right? Camry, Accord, Sonata, Fusion. Those guys are looking in the rearview mirrors because their own small SUVs, the Escapes and the
RAV4s,
RAV4s are, I guarantee they're going to start to pirate sales out of the midsize.
Oh, I think they already are. But to some extent, they may not care as much because a lot of the crossovers have higher price points, and they may be based on humbler chassis and smaller engines and that sort of thing. So it's just profit.
What is it about that shape, to your point, Chris, that you can charge a higher premium for it?
You know, I think it all started with the whole like mythology of being able to go anywhere you want to go, and I'm buying this because it's a statement about me. You're not buying two-door coupes anymore. This is my personal, you know, expression. But now it's just they're useful, and people don't want to be seen in minivans or station wagons. And so this gives them all that sort of utility, and there's not as much of a fuel economy penalty anymore, and there's not really a ride penalty anymore, a refinement penalty. So there's that opportunity there. And also, we've also seen crossover styling be taken out of the box, right? So where they were basically mimicking trucks, and then something like the original Nissan Murano came along, and it had this very fluid, very different sort of styling, and now that's proliferated to the point where when something does come out that's more masculine and truck-like, it's very different. Something like the Jeep Cherokee came out, and we were all kind of shocked and, you know, not quite sure how we felt about it. It's selling like crazy.
It's selling like crazy, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that makes them more appealing to the traditional sedan customers. I mean, look at the Escape from the last generation to the current. Much more car-like. I mean, it's going to wind up getting the Aston Martin grille, too, just like the sedans. And so aesthetically, I think it's easier now for customers to get into a crossover because it doesn't look like a truck anymore. And the underpinnings, I mean, we were driving with the NACTOY jury, going out there and just flogging A3 Q3 Audis and Lincoln MKCs. I mean, you can drive those things hard now because they're on a car chassis.
Yeah.
Just amazing to me, you know, the evolution in the market and how the public gravitates to stuff. And the public's not stupid, you know. There might be a bunch of stupid individuals, but collectively, you know, there's a lot of wisdom in that. And that's what's really been striking to me, is to see this be a global phenomenon and how it's really just come about in the last decade.
Well, it goes back to the 19th century, right? People like to ride up high on horses. So, you know, I mean, you really look at the history of the SUV, and it's a bit accidental. I mean, again, you know, it kind of came from a government mandate, and the manufacturers realized that they could go into SUVs and make money and get customers into the big cars they wanted, even while the government was starving them with the fuel economy laws. So they go into the SUVs big time with the Jeeps and the Cherokees. The public eats them up, and now, lo and behold, it turns out that when you talk to people, why do you buy an SUV? One of the first things out of their mouths is, I like to ride up high.
Sure. Well, and when everybody else is in crossovers and SUVs, there's that arms race, right? That height that you have to keep going up and up, and maybe that's it. You know, they're driving around in their sedans that sit low to the ground, and they go, you know what? I can't see, I can't see what's coming this way because there's that other vehicle in front of me, and that freaks me out. So I really need to get a crossover the next time because then I can see over them.
But it's not just the height. I think the other piece of that is that you just walk right into the car. So now, I mean, friends of mine, I'm a sedan guy, sports car nut, and I'm used to people saying to me in my little sports car, oh, you got to get down in there. You got to stoop down so low to get in it. Now I find I'll take sedans over to friends' houses who haven't driven a sedan in a while and say, what do you think? And they say, gosh, it's so low. I have to get down into that. They like walking, stepping up into, or just moving right into an SUV.
Yeah,
it's easy.
And I think there's still, again, the myth of there being more safety in that size package. Even though there's more weight that's carried around with it and handling is generally poor, there's the expectation that because it's a truck, that it's going to be safer in an accident.
Yeah, and I think for those that have all-wheel drive on them too, there's this, the weather's never going to stop me aspect to it as well. So I think you guys nailed it. Sitting up high, the command position, and to use the industry jargon, that feeling that whether it's true or not, I got more metal around me, and this all-wheel drive plus the versatility. I mean, there, a lot more cargo space in them, and generally the back seats have decent room too.
Yeah, well, and since Jeep was one of the first in the market, I mean, it never fails to amaze me how powerful the Jeep brand is across the board. I mean, those guys are typically they're going down into every segment with that Jeep. What's the latest one? The little one?
Renegade, yeah.
The Renegade. They're making them in Italy. They're exporting them to the world. I mean, Marchione's figured out you can sell Jeeps against Fords, and you can sell.
Oh,
you can sell Jeeps.
It's like the Mustang, right? I mean, there's that latent goodwill for the brand, and it's sort of a different product. We were just over at the Paris Motor Show, and we did a drive in the updated Ford Focus. And while we were driving along through the countryside, outside of Paris, we saw no less than 3 Jeeps. And when I say Jeeps, I mean the original GP. And they're still out there, they're still being used, and they still bring smiles to people's faces. And there's just that latent goodwill that it's really hard to manufacture something like that.
Yeah,
Really
what a brand.
It is. Hey, let's wrap this up, guys. I want to thank you both for coming here. Henry Payne from the Detroit News, Chris Pockert from Autoblog. Great having you guys. And it was great having Dave Pericak here, too, with the Mustang in the studio.
Always good to have a Mustang in the studio. Hard to compete against.
That's right. Want to thank all of you for having tuned in, too, and join us again next week for Autoline After Hours.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, your journey, our passion, and by Hyundai. See what makes Elantra so nice. Check out its style, interior space, fuel economy, and popular features now.
All the time. Yeah, there's so much good stuff.
It's a good time. I mean, it's certainly in North America, the industry's going great. The product is phenomenal. The technology that's right around the corner, I can't wait for it to hit. So.
Well, see, and that may be where you and I are a little different. The autonomous car thing scares me.
You don't have to buy one.
Well, no, right, but eventually you probably will. Well, and that's the thing that freaks me out about it, and I still need some more years in this business. So.
Buy one of these Mustangs and keep it in your garage. They will not pass a law saying you have to get rid of it.
Well, but that's what I worry about. I worry about the government aspect of the driverless car, because that's from civil liberties aspect, that's always our fear, right? About the digital age, is that you can be watched from anywhere. Mm-hmm. And once you have a driverless control that's out of our control,
right?
What will the government force that vehicle to do for us? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like this experiment they're doing down 94, I think, where the manufacturers are working with the government and rigging that that section of interstate to monitor all your speed, everything. I hate going to California because you're guilty before you're innocent, right? They snap a picture of your license plate speeding, and they send you a ticket in the mail.
Yeah, it's happened a lot more than just California, too.
Yeah.
And the plate scanners, I was just editing an article about that today with the license plate scanners for cop cars. They're terrifying. I mean, they will collect thousands and thousands of plates an hour, and there's no real guideline on how long they can hold that data. So in some states, it's, you know, you may hold on to it for X number of months. In some states, it's years, and sometimes there's no guidelines. And so, you know, they ostensibly, if you're looking for a stolen car or something like that, there's probably a timetable on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you know, I mean, I think Musk was talking positively about the fact that the new Model S D can detect whatever the speed limit is where you are and adjust it automatically for the car. Well, what if the government decides, you know, we're going to mandate that in every car so you never go over or under the speed limit?
well, the good news is if cars aren't crashing anymore, you'll probably go an honest 65 or 70, and it'll probably be everybody going that. So
Well,
there'll be
if
less
cars can't
congestion.
crash
It's truly
anymore,
autonomous, yeah.
I'm for boosting the speed limit to 150 miles an hour.
Or whatever.
I'm serious.
Whatever, why
I'm
not?
dead serious.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
There's, you know, if as long as you get the resource equation worked out, which we're working on,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Time to boost the limit. You know, we've made zero progress since about 1950 in that regard. You know, I don't know exactly when the 70-mile-an-hour national speed limit was set, but I believe it was in the 50s, and we've made no progress. Come on, let's get going.
Well, we got off the double nickel for at least.
Well, yeah, well, that was horrible, and it didn't do any good at all.
No.
But yeah, I mean, that should be the new target. We want 150 miles an hour with no increase in accidents, fatalities, or fuel consumption.
You need to go back and talk to Elon about that, because he's one of those guys that could start talking and having that conversation and have people actually think he's not completely crazy.
Yeah. Which is another way of saying you think I'm completely crazy.
No. What I'm saying is you need to have the right people out there
Yeah,
floating
no, you're
those
right.
trial balloons and getting it in the public consciousness. Because otherwise, I mean, car enthusiasts saying the speed limit should be 150 miles an hour. Well, of course we think that, you know, the speed limits are too low. It's just sort of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, gents. You know, McElroy and...
Thanks, Chip. Thanks a lot.
Oh, did you call him out?
Yeah, I called him out. I want to do it on the show sometime. That's what I want to do it. They were all duds. I challenged you, Burgess, and Brooke.
Oh,
Lindsay
Brooke. Yeah.
And none of them took it up.
You should get them all on one night.
We do it all. I was searching for the video I've got of our pond hockey game every winter where we chop a hole in the ice and we jump in. And I was going to send that to you saying, ice bucket challenges are for sissies.
You do that every year, right?
Just about.
Yeah,
That's pretty good. On your personal pond? You have a pond?
No. I got a buddy who lives out in the Pinckney, right in the whole hill area. I go by he's right off Hankard Road on a street called Noah. And you go way the hell back there, and he's got this little house, really cool, on like an isthmus. So he's got a lake out the front yard and a lake out the backyard. And usually around January, sometimes New Year's, in fact, it all depends on the weather. Go shovel off the lake, I'll play hockey, chop a hole in there. He'd fire up his sauna with a window that looks out on the lake, drink a whole bunch of beer.
That's good living.
And, I'm telling you, because at first you go and you go, you race back to the sauna, you know, and go, oh, goddamn, I can't believe that. And then have another beer, and it's like, you know, that wasn't that bad. Go out again, and I swear to God, if you can do it like 3 or 4 times, it's like,
Your body
start to get used to it. And I
There you go, there it
I
is.
promise you, for the rest of the week, you feel fantastic.
It's that shock to the system?
Oh my God, it's more than a shock. I believe it's healthy. And I think it adds years to your life. I mean, you can't believe, you know, by Tuesday, you know, if you do it, we're usually on a Saturday, right? You know, by Tuesday, you're like, God damn, I feel like I could take on the world.
So, did you have a polar bear club when you were in high school or college?
Never did.
No.
Yeah, in high school there's a polar bear club.
There's one in Detroit.
Yeah, and every morning this club would go out and
Every
jump,
morning?
every
no,
morning,
thank you.
and jump into the river where I went to school.
So here's the alternate version of that is my father, who's just about to turn 80. And he's from the Czech Republic and calls it the old country, and you know he's from the communist era, and he's done quite well for himself, but he's still very humble, and he does certain things that he doesn't have to do in the interest of discipline. And one of the things that he does is he keeps the temperature incredibly low in his home in the wintertime, and on the order of like 55 degrees.
Wow.
And so
Not just to save money.
So what he was doing for a number of years is in the morning he would wake up and he would take a cold shower. And he would take a cold shower so that when he got out of the shower,
He felt warm.
He felt warm. And he did it for years until he caught like I don't know what it was, like a permanent chill kind of bad thing happening. Yeah. And then he went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, look, man, you got to stop that. You got to knock that off. That is completely unhealthy. It's very dangerous at your age. Don't do it. So he's publicly backed off on it. I don't know if he's still doing it, but yeah.
That's a riot.
It's wild.
Yeah. He also goes and hoses himself off in the backyard, and he lives in suburban Cleveland in a postage stamp sized yard, and he goes out there in the middle of the night, and I'm like, I think the neighbors really do mind.
But well, that's funny.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good old Czech tradition.
But in my book, it takes beers and saunas to go
You gotta have
do it.
beers.
Probably would do that for
Well, there's your video. Do the video.
I know.
Post it in your set.
Well, I got
You met my
one.
challenge.
I got one, but it's too long. I'm looking for I had a